So Dylan Efron, yeah, Zac Efron's younger brother, just broke his nose on Dancing with the Stars. He took an elbow to the face during rehearsal and had to perform anyway. And the internet is acting like this is the most dramatic thing to ever happen on a dance floor. People are calling it shocking, unprecedented, so dangerous. But here's the thing. I study history, and let me tell you something about dancing. It has always been this dangerous. Actually, it used to be way worse. We're talking broken bones, concussions, literal deaths. And one time, a king paralyzed himself doing a dance move. So buckle up, because today we're diving into the absolutely wild history of dance injuries and why Dylan Efron getting a broken nose is actually pretty tame by historical standards. Okay, let's break down what actually happened. Dylan Efron is competing on Dancing with the Stars. You know, that show where celebrities learn ballroom dancing and America votes on who's the best? During rehearsal for a routine, his professional partner accidentally elbowed him in the face. Wham! Broken nose, blood everywhere, very dramatic. Now the producers were like, "Do you want to withdraw?" And Dylan, being committed to the craft, said, "No, I'll dance anyway." So he performed with a freshly broken nose. The judges praised his dedication, the audience was impressed, social media went wild. "He's so brave, what a trooper, the dedication." And look, respect to Dylan, performing with a broken nose is legitimately tough. But I'm sitting here reading these reactions thinking, do people not know that dance has historically been an extreme sport? Let me take you back through history and show you what real dangerous dancing looks like. Let's start with Tudor England, specifically a dance called La Volta. This was the power move of the 1500s. Queen Elizabeth I loved it, all the nobles did it to show off. Here's how La Volta worked. The man would grab the woman around the waist, lift her completely off the ground, and then throw her into the air while spinning. She'd do like 2 rotations in midair, and he'd catch her on the way down. I'm not exaggerating. This was a real dance at fancy court events in massive gowns and uncomfortable shoots. Now imagine what could go wrong here. You're in a crowded ballroom, everyone's doing this move, you're wearing like 30 pounds of fabric, the floors are slippery, there's no safety mat. People got launched. Women broke their ankles landing wrong, men threw their backs out. There are historical records of people getting concussed when their partner dropped them. And you know what? If you didn't do La Volta, people thought you were boring. It was a social requirement to risk your spine for entertainment. Queen Elizabeth I herself got injured doing La Volta multiple times, and she kept doing it anyway because stopping would make her look weak. Sound familiar? That's literally what Dylan Efron just did, except his injury didn't require lifting anyone over his head. So when people say Dylan is so dedicated for dancing with a broken nose, I'm like, Tudor nobles were out here risking paralysis every weekend and nobody gave them a standing ovation. But wait, it gets better. Let me tell you about the time King Henry VIII, yes, that Henry VIII, basically ended his own reign because of a jousting accident. That happened because he was showing off his dance moves. Okay, technically it was jousting, but hear me out. In 1536, Henry was at a tournament doing athletic stuff to impress Anne Boleyn. He was 44 years old, overweight, and had no business doing any of this. He got knocked off his horse, fell hard, and was unconscious for 2 hours. When he woke up, he had a leg injury that never healed. That wound got infected repeatedly for the rest of his life. This injury changed his entire personality. He went from being relatively athletic and reasonable to being paranoid, angry, and unable to move properly. Some historians think the head injury gave him brain damage. And why was he jousting? Because physical performance, dancing, jousting, showing off athletically, was how you maintain power and respect in the Tudor court. If you couldn't dance or joust, you were seen as weak. So Henry VIII literally destroyed his body and possibly his mind, trying to stay relevant in court entertainment culture. Dylan Efron broke his nose. Henry VIII broke his entire legacy. Now let's talk about Louis XIV of France, also known as the Sun King. This man was obsessed with ballet, not just watching it, performing it. Louis XIV literally created the first professional ballet academy in 1661. Sounds fancy, right? Cultural, artistic. Sure, it was basically a torture camp. Dancers at his academy practice for 8 to 10 hours a day in uncomfortable costumes, on hard floors with zero modern safety equipment or medical knowledge. People passed out from exhaustion regularly. Broken toes were considered part of the process. Dancers performed through injuries because if you disappointed the king, you were out. And Louis XIV himself, he performed in ballets until he was in his 30s, despite multiple injuries. There are records of him dancing with pulled muscles, sprains, and once with a badly bruised rib. Why? Because in French court, if the king couldn't dance, how could he expect his nobles to? Dancing was literally a political statement about your fitness to rule. At least on Dancing with the Stars, if you get injured, they offer you medical attention and the option to quit if it's too much. Louis XIV dancers gotta walk it off and a threat of employment. Moving forward to the Victorian era, you'd think by the 1800s people would have figured out how to dance safely? Nope. Victorian ballroom dancing had its own unique danger: corsets. Women wore corsets so tight they could barely breathe, and then they were expected to dance for hours. Fainting during dances was so common that ballrooms had fainting rooms, literally rooms specifically designed for women who passed out while waltzing. And this wasn't considered a problem, it was considered normal. Oh, Lady Catherine fainted during the quadrille again. Just take her to the fainting room, she'll be fine for the next dance. Women also broke ribs from their corsets while dancing. They got bruised from being spun too aggressively. They twisted ankles in impractical shoes on slippery floors. But if you didn't dance, you weren't going to meet a husband. So women literally risked their physical health for social advancement. Dancing wasn't just entertainment, it was economic survival. Dylan Efron can take a break whenever he wants. Victorian women had to keep dancing even if they couldn't breathe properly. Kind of puts dancing through the pain in perspective, doesn't it? Now, you might be thinking, okay, but that's all old history. Modern dance is safer, right? Well, not really. Professional ballet dancers today have injury rates comparable to NFL players. Stress fractures, torn ligaments, chronic pain, all considered normal in the ballet world. Dancers perform on broken toes. They dance through stress fractures. There's literally a culture of hiding injuries because if you're hurt, you lose your role. The average professional ballet career ends in your 30s because your body just can't take it anymore. These are people at the peak of physical fitness and dance still breaks them. So when Dylan Efron dances with a broken nose and everyone calls it incredible dedication, I'm like, yes, but also this is just Tuesday for professional dancers. This is the norm, not the exception. So what's the lesson here? Dylan Efron broke his nose on Dancing with the Stars. And yes, that's legitimately painful, and he showed real dedication by performing anyway. But humans have been injuring themselves for dance since forever. It's not new, it's not unprecedented, it's actually deeply, historically normal. Tudor nobles risked broken bones throwing each other in the air. King Henry VIII basically ended his reign trying to show off athletically. Louis XIV's dancers collapsed from exhaustion. Victorian women fainted in corsets. Modern ballet dancers performed through fractures. Dance has always required people to push through pain, risk injury, and sacrifice their bodies for art and entertainment. The only thing that's changed is now we have social media to make it go viral, medical attention available, and the option to actually quit if it's too much. So the next time you see someone get injured on Dancing with the Stars and think, wow, dancing is dangerous, just remember humans figured that out about 500 years ago. We just keep doing it anyway. I'm your host from Historic LOLs, reminding you that every shocking modern trend has a historical precedent where people did the same thing, but worse, with fewer safety regulations, and nobody filmed it for TikTok. If you enjoyed this deep dive into dangerous dance history, hit that subscribe button, drop a comment telling me what other shocking modern thing you want me to historically roast. And hey, Dylan, if you're watching, your ancestors would be proud or concerned, probably both. Thanks for watching, and remember, if you think your workout is hard, at least you're not doing La Volta in a corset while a king watches.